We continue our season of the works of Samuel Beckett. Billie Whitelaw introduces her 1973 performance of Not I in A Wake for Sam.
I can't imagine what it looked like. I know it sounds silly, but I wish to God I could have gone out front and seen that, because the Royal Court's quite a big theatre, and my mouth, although is not small, but for that's all there was on the stage. My mouth lit up by one little light and a shadowy figure in the corner. And I can't imagine what it looked like. The atmosphere in the theatre when it started out was one of slightly a bum shuffling, oh, what is this? And as it went on, and as there was no escape, because we killed all the lights, we broke all the rules, and took the light bulbs out of the exit lights, and took the light bulbs out of the ladies' loo lights, because people tried to escape into the loo to get away from this relentless mouth that wouldn't let go. Plenty of writers can write a play about a state of mind, but he actually put that state of mind on the stage in front of your eyes, and I think a lot of people recognized it. I recognized it when I first read it at home. I just burst into tears because I recognized the inner scream. Perhaps that's not what it is, I don't know, but for me that's what I recognized, an inner scream in there and no escaping it. He was so demanding, in as much that he was so meticulous. If you said an O instead of an R, or an and instead of a something else, you know, from the stalls, you'd say, "Oh Lord," or "Oh," or you'd see his head going down into his hands. But because I knew he was radiating love and he cared and he wanted you to be perfect, and it's not possible, but he wanted you to be perfect, it didn't upset me. Anthony Page and he were working together on the piece, and then when we'd finished working in the theatre, we only worked half days, and he would come home with me, and we'd sit, and we'd talk very quietly, and these pale blue eyes that you could see right through, and we would start, without saying anything to each other, we'd just start. Perhaps we walked in, and we'd go out into this world, tiny little thing before its time, godforsaken hole. No love that is normally vented at the speechless infant in the home. No, out into this world, tiny little thing before its time, in a what? Girl, yes, tiny little girl, into this, out into this, before her time, godforsaken hole, called. No matter, parents unknown, unheard of, he having vanished, thin air, no sooner buttoned up his breeches, she similarly, 8 months later, almost at the tick, so no love, spared that, no love such as normally vented on the speechless infant in the home, no, nor indeed for that matter, any of any kind, no love of any kind, at any subsequent stage, so, typical affair, nothing of any note till coming up to 60 when, what, 70, God, coming up to 70 when, wandering in a field, looking aimlessly for cowslips to make a ball, a few steps, then stop, stare into space, then on, a few more, stop and stare again, so on, drifting around, when suddenly, gradually, all went out, all that early April morning light, and she found herself in the... What? Who? No! She! Found herself in the dark, and if not exactly insentient, for she could still hear the buzzing, so-called, in the ears, and a ray of light came and went, such as the moon might cast, drifting in and out of cloud, but so dulled, feeling so dulled, she did not know what position she was in. Imagine what position she was in, whether standing or sitting, but the brain, what? Kneeling, yes, whether standing or sitting or kneeling, but the brain, what? Lying, yes, whether standing or sitting or kneeling or lying, but the brain still in a way, for her first thought was, oh, long after, sudden flash, brought up as she'd been to believe with the other waves in the merciful God, her first thought was, oh, long after, sudden flash, she was being punished for her sins, a number of which then, further proof were needed, flashed through her mind, one after the other, then dismissed as foolish, or wrong after, this thought's dismissed, as she suddenly gradually realized, she was not suffering. Imagine, not suffering. Indeed, could not remember offhand when she had suffered less. Unless, of course, she was meant to be suffering, thought to be suffering. Just as the odd time in her life when clearly intended to be having pleasure, she was in fact having none, not the slightest, in which case, of course, that notion of punishment for some sin or other, or for the lot, or no particular reason, for its own sake, things she understood perfectly, that notion of punishment which first occurred to her, brought up as she'd been to believe, with the other waves, in a merciful God, first occurred to her, then dismissed as foolish, was perhaps not so foolish after all, so on, all that, vain reasonings, till this other thought, long after, sudden flash, very foolish really, but what, the buzzing, yes, all the time the buzzing, so-called, in the ears, though of course actually, not in the ears at all, in the skull, dull raw in the skull, and all the time this ray or beam, like moonbeam, but probably not, certainly not, always the same spot, now bright, now shrouded, but always the same spot, as no moon could, no moon, just all part of the same wish to torment, though actually, in point of fact, not in the least, not a twinge, so far. This other thought then, long after, sudden flash, very foolish really, but so like her, in a way, that she might do well to groan on and off, writhe, she could not, as if in actual agony, but could not bring herself, some flaw in her makeup, incapable of deceit, or the machine, more likely the machine, so disconnected, never got the message, or powerless to respond, like numbed, couldn't make the sound, not any sound, no sound of any kind, no screaming for help, for example, should she feel so inclined, scream, ah! Then listen. Scream again. Ah! Then listen again. No, spared that. All silent as the grave. No part. What? The buzzing, yes, all silent but for the buzzing, so-called. No part of her moving that she could feel. Just the eyelids, presumably, on and off. Shut out the light. Reflex, they call it. No feeling of any kind. But the lids, even best of times. Who feels them? Opening, shutting, all that moisture. But the brain still sufficiently, very much so, at this stage, in control, under control, to question even this. For on that April morning, so it reasoned, that April morning, she, fixing with her eye a distant bell, as she hastened towards it, fixing it with her eye, lest it elude her, had not all gone out, all that light of itself, without any, on her part, so on it reasoned, vain questionings, and all dead still, sweet silent as the grave, when suddenly, gradually, she realised, what? The buzzing, yes, all dead still but for the buzzing, so-called, when suddenly she realised words were what? Who? No! She! Realised words were coming. Imagine, words were coming. A voice she did not recognise at first, so long since it had sounded, then finally had to admit could be none other than her own. Certain vowel sounds she'd never heard elsewhere, so that people would stare, the rare occasions, once or twice a year, always winter, some strange reason, stare at her uncomprehending. And now this dream, she who had never, on the contrary, practically speechless all her days, how she survived. Even shopping, out shopping, busy shopping centre, supermarket. Just hand in the list with the bag, old black shopping bag, then stand there waiting, any length of time, middle of the throng, motionless, staring into space, mouth half open as usual, till it was back in her hand, the bag back in her hand, then pay and go, not as much as goodbye, how she survived. And now this dream, not catching the half of it, not the quarter, no idea what she was saying. Imagine, no idea what she was saying. That's what she began trying to delude herself. It was not hers at all, not her voice at all, and no doubt would have, vital she should, was on the point, after long efforts, when suddenly she felt, gradually, she felt her lips moving. Imagine, her lips moving, as of course till then she had not, and not alone the lips, the cheeks, the jaws, the whole face, all those, what? The tongue, yes, the tongue in the mouth, all those contortions without which no speech possible, yet in the ordinary way, not felt at all, so intent one is on what one is saying, the whole being hanging on its words, so that not only not only had she to give up, admit hers alone, her voice alone, but this other awful thought, long after, sudden flash, even more awful if possible, that feeling was coming back. Imagine, feeling coming back, starting at the top, then working down, the whole machine. But no, spared that, the mouth alone, so far. And then thinking, long after, sudden flash, it can't go on, all this, all that, steady stream, steady to hear, make something of it, and her own thoughts, make something of them, all that, what? The buzzing, yes, all the time the buzzing, so-called, all that together, imagine, whole body like gone, just the mouth, lips, cheeks, jaws, never still, what? Tongue, yes, lips, cheeks, jaws, tongue, never still a second, mouth on fire, stream of words, in her ear, practically in her ear, not catching the half, not the quarter, no idea what she was saying, imagine, no idea what she was saying, and can't stop stop, no stopping it. She who but a moment before, but a moment, couldn't make a sound, no sound of any kind, and now can't stop the stream, and the whole brain begging, something begging in the brain, begging the mouth to stop, pause a moment, if only for a moment, and no response, as if it hadn't heard, or couldn't pause a second, like maddened, all that together, straining to hear, piece it together, and the brain raving away on its own, trying to make sense of it, or make it stop. Or in the past, dragging out the past, flashes from all over, walks mostly, walking all her days, day after day, a few steps then stop, stare into space, then on, a few more, stop and stare again, so on, drifting around, day after day. All that time she cried, the one time she can remember, since she was a babby. Must have cried as a babby, perhaps not essential to life, just a birth cry, to get her going, breathing, then no more till this, old hag already, sitting staring at her hand. Where was it? Croker's Acres, one evening on the way home, a little mound in Croker's Acres, dusk, sitting staring at her hand, there in her lap, palm upward, suddenly saw it wet, the palm, tears presumably, hers presumably, no one else for miles, no sound, just the tears, sat and watched them dry, all over in a second, or grabbing at the straw, the brain, flickering away on its own, quick grabbing on, nothing there, on somewhere else, so on, as bad as the voice, worse, as little sense, all that together, can't, what? The buzzing, yes, all the time the buzzing, dull roar like falls, and the beam, flickering on and off, starting to move around, like moonbeam, but not, all part of the same, keep an eye on that too, corner of the eye, all that together, can't go on, God is love, she'll be purged, back in the field, morning sun, April, sink face down in the grass, nothing but the larks, so on, grabbing at the straw, straining to hear, the odd word, make some sense of it, whole body like gone, just the mouth, like maddened, and can't stop, no stopping it, something she had to... What? Who? No! She! Something she had to... What? The buzzing, yes, all the time the buzzing, dull roar like falls in the skull, and the beam poking around, painless, so far, so far. Then thinking, oh, long after, sudden flash, perhaps something she had to tell. Could that be it? Something she had to tell. Tiny little thing, out before its time, God-forsaken hole, no love, spared that, speechless all her days, practically speechless, how she survived. That time in court, what did she to say for herself, guilty or not guilty? Stand up, woman, speak up, woman. Stood there, staring into space, mouth half open as usual, waited to be led away, glad of the hand and her arm. Now this, something she had to tell, could that be it? Something that would tell how it was, how she, what? Had been, yes, something that would tell how it had been, how she had lived on, guilty or not, on and on, to be 60, something she, what, 70, God, on and on, to be 70, something she didn't know herself, wouldn't know if she heard, then forgiven, God is love, tender mercies, knew every morning, back in the field, April morning, facing the grass, nothing but the larks, pick it up there, get on with it from there, a few more, what, not that, nothing to do with that, nothing she could tell, all right, nothing she could tell, try something else, think of something else, oh, long after, sudden flash, what, not that either, all right, something else again, so on, hit on it in the end, think everything keep on long enough, then forgiven, back in the, what, not that either, nothing to do with that either, nothing she could tell, all right, nothing she could tell, nothing she could think, nothing she, what, who, no, she! A tiny little thing, out before its time, God-forsaken hole, no love, spared that, speechless all her days, practically speechless, even to herself, never out loud, but not completely. Sometimes, sudden urge, once or twice a year, always winter, some strange reason, the long evenings, hours of darkness, sudden urge to tell. Then rush out, stop the first she saw, near this lavatory, start pouring it out, steady stream, bad stuff, half the vowels wrong, no one could follow, till she saw the stare she was getting, then die of shame, crawl back in, once or twice a year, always winter, some strange reason, the long hours of darkness. Now this, quicker and quicker, the words, the brain, flickering away like mad, quick grabbing on, nothing there, on somewhere else, try somewhere else, and all the time something begging, something in her begging it all to stop, unanswered, prayer unanswered, or unheard, too faint, so on, keep on, trying, not knowing what she was trying, what to try, whole body like gone, just a mouth like maddened, so on, keep, what? What? The buzzing, yes, all the time the buzzing, dull roar like falls in the skull, and the beam poking around, painless, so far, so on, keep on, trying, not knowing what she was, what? Who? No! She! What she was trying, what to try, no matter, keep on, hit on it in the end, then back, God is love, tender mercies,
When we'd finished it, Beckett and I sat in a darkened room and watched it through, and when it was over, out of the darkness, just came one word from him.